Welcome. So this is our final session of May before we move into summer proper. So let's get started. We're going to explore some of those Shibashi movements that we've been looking at, some of which are quite challenging. Again, seated or standing. Let me stand up and get things rolling. I will do my usual mix of standing and seated, and we'll start with our opening movements. Let's start with this opening Qi movement to raise power. Just bringing the hands up and down. If you're able, with me, if you are standing, to have a little bit of a flex of the knees if I turn to the side. Or it could be just a lean at the hips and the waist. Again, for both people who are seated or standing, even a little lean forward. Again, is enough to challenge our balance, activate muscles, postural muscles in particular. So even little deviations from an upright posture impact our balance. Again, something that those of us with lower limb prosthetics or prostheses know all too well. Okay, we're going to bring our hands together this time. Palms together. Up they come. And then we're rotating them forwards. And again, you can have a little lean forward. And then straighten up. So again, subtly, we're working those postural muscles. Or as NASA calls them, that's right, the space agency, anti-gravity muscles. The muscles that keep us upright, that spring us up from the ground. We'll do one more rotation. Okay. Either a little adjustment of the right leg going forward. Let me come back here. So I've just shifted my right foot forward. Okay, if you're sat down, again, you can have an emphasis towards that right leg. And if I move my box, we start swinging the hands loosely. Just like so. And we're seeing if we can get some weight shift going from the right leg, which is slightly forwards, to the left leg. So again, for those of us who use and wear lower limb prosthetics, this is actually very challenging. So again, go steady. Use this slow, purposeful movement as an opportunity to kind of explore, to investigate, to ask questions. How does this feel? What is the boundary where I'm balanced versus the boundary where I know that I would become unbalanced? Okay, bring that right leg back. Same thing with the left leg, if you can. So mine's gone forward a bit. And although this is my intact leg, as they call it, it's actually the side where I've got least balance. Or less balance. Not sure what the correct word is. Less balance. So I have to be a bit more mindful. Have a bit more care and attention moving through that range. And you will find similar things for yourself. One side may feel more balanced than the other. Certain positions may feel more unbalanced than another. And again, this is a bit different from a normal exercise session where we might not necessarily pay that much attention. But I'm asking you in these sessions to actually pay attention and actually make a little mental log of what you find out. And then not in a very kind of strict way, begin to think about how you can accommodate those differences in day-to-day life. What can you learn and how can we adapt? That is so much a part of Chinese philosophy, to be very adaptable. Let's start building in some rotation. So I'm facing the camera. I've got my right hand, this one, overhead. My left hand is down here. Both fingers are pointing to the left and my palms are out, and I'm rotating, turning to the right, turning the hands over and then rotating the waist to the left. So it's a big sweeping rotation, which again can be quite a tricky movement to control. If you sat down, again, these rotations are really important for people who are sat down, who are using wheelchairs. It's incredibly easy to get fixed in one plane of movement. And therefore, you practicing rotation, exploring rotation is so important, again, to all the activities that we take part in day-to-day life. So again, just have that spirit of inquiry as we go through that rotation. I'm going to do one more. Don't worry if we're out of sync. Just do one more rotation to whichever side you are on, and then come back to the center. And hopefully no one found that too difficult. So that was fisherman casts his nets. I like to think of it as a big sweeping cloak. That could be quite interesting. Okay, here's a bit of a coordination and balance challenge as we do the movement that's called fairy points the way. Strange name, but we're going to pick the hands up. I'm taking my hands to my left. When I'm looking and I'm pointing with my index finger to the right, letting the hands relax and drop down, circle, full circle all the way back round to that right hand side, and then I'm now looking and pointing to my left. So the hands drop, sweep round in a big circle. They're there on the left side, and then I'm looking and pointing to the right. So you've got these big circles. The hands are crossing our center line 3 times within one of those sequences. And that creates a little bit of, shall we say, disturbance for the brain. Wondering why? Why are we doing this? Not consciously, but there's a certain sense of the brain almost wanting us to pick a side and stick with it, whereas actually we're alternating sides frequently with these big circles. We're turning the head as well, which challenges our balance through our visual sense and our vestibular sense, which is the inner ear that manages our balance and position. I'm going to do one more circle and one more point. Excellent. So again, if you've got that sense of challenge happening as a consequence of those movements, that's kind of what we're after. It should be a little bit challenging. Not too much, but enough for us to be aware that we're having to focus and concentrate quite a bit. Okay, one of my favorite movements. I'm just going to take this top off because I'm getting warm. Just bear with me. And let me sit down for this one because I haven't sat down over those first movements. So keep standing if you want to remain standing. I do like this movement. It's called Stork Paying Homage to the Moon. And I'm picking my hands up. The palms are going to come together overhead. You can look up as well. And then I'm bringing the palms down slowly, slowly. Elbows can stick out. We're getting a bit of a stretch through the arms and shoulders, and then we let them go. I like this movement because we can take a big in breath as we bring the hands together. And then just let the breath go. It's like letting a sigh go as we bring the hands down slowly. And at the end of that sigh, you can just relax down. And then we can move into that overhead position again, maybe with a big breath in if you wish. And then again, letting that breath go down. Something nice about this movement. Or maybe that's just me. Overhead. And then this slow descent of the hands coming down. I'll do it one more time. Just a nice movement for the upper body. Excellent. And I'll stay seated for the next movement. I'm just going to turn at a bit of an angle to the camera, just so you can see. If you're standing up, see if you can have a bit of a wider stance so that you've got a wider base of support. If you sat down with me, again, have this sense of growing up from your seat. If you're standing up, hands want to be by your sides. If you're sat down with me, hands resting on the knees. And then the hands, for both of us, standing or sitting, kind of glide up the thighs, up the front of the body. Again, we get the elbows sticking out. This is where you have permission to stick your elbows out. The hands roll over. And then I'm pushing forward. Again, I can lean forward. And it's as if I'm reaching out to grasp something. And then I let the hands drop. And then they once again come over the knees, gliding over the thighs, up the front of the body, and we're back into that roll of the hands over before pushing forwards again with this grasping type movement, looking forwards. And again, work within a range where you know that you aren't going to jeopardize your balance. And just see how you can organize your body to enable you to complete this fluid movement. Dragon clawing, or yellow dragon as it's called sometimes. Reaching forwards, almost to grasp a bar or something in front of us before coming back. If you wish, you can have a breath in. And again, a breath out as we lean and push forwards. And then again, if you want to repeat that breath cycle, you can, or if you want to just take a rest and just focus on the movement, do so. We'll do one more. Let's just finish off with one more. Okay, just bring that back. Again, we're offsetting our balance because we're moving and leaning forwards. Again, how many times do we do that in day-to-day life? And we're having to organize ourselves, or organize our body so that we maintain balance and stability. Here's another movement that challenges us in balance and stability, only this time from side to side. I'm going to stand up again, but again, everything applies to seated positions. And first of all, we're going to get some weight shift going. Standing up, see if you can have a bit of a wider stance, okay? Just a bit wider. It's as if we've got on a train or bus. There's no seats. We've got to stand up, and therefore we've got to go with the movement of that bus or train, even if we're sat down. If we're sat down, we're shifting weight from one hip to the other. You can place your hands on your hips if you're standing. If you sat down, you might have armrests in the way. And I'm just shifting weight purposefully from one leg to the other. And again, let yourself or let your body guide you in how to organize it. I'm saying organization in a purposeful way, kind of letting your body be wise in relation to how it organizes itself. Because again, our bodies have been disrupted as a consequence of limb loss or losing awareness of a limb, even if that limb is intact. We may have lost sensation or the ability to move a limb. So that's a disruption. So our body has to adjust. So how do we manage this side-to-side motion? Another question for you to kind of explore. There's no right or wrong answers either, because we're all different. Okay, come to a stop with that side-to-side sway. Let's bring the hands and arms into this movement as well. So we're picking the palms up. I'll face the camera first of all. Turning the palms forward. Okay, so I'm going to look to my left side. My left hand drops. It's as if I've got a bow and arrow. My right hand stays high. And now I'm shifting my weight, just as we practiced, to my right side as I do so. And then I'm going to shift my weight back to the center. Lower the hands and then begin to let them lift up overhead. Turn the palms to face forward, and now we do the same on the right side. Right hand drops. My weight shifts to the left. And you'll get a bit of a stretch in that left side. Square up again, weight 50-50. We're going very slowly in this one because it's quite a tricky movement to coordinate. Palms forward. Looking to the left as I drop that left hand just about shoulder height, and then shifting my weight over to the right. And again, I'm not being prescriptive as I come back to the center in terms of how much you shift that body weight, because again, it's going to be individual to you. For some people, it might be quite a lot. For other people, it might be a little. Here I am looking right, but shifting weight to the left. And then slowly coming back. There's a lot going on to stabilize ourselves within this plane of movement where we move from side to side. So much research points to actually the importance of practicing these movements that challenge our balance in this side-to-side motion, rather than what we might think might be more important in terms of just a walking motion going forwards. It's actually more about practicing side-to-side balance. Lovely. We're going to do one more. Don't worry if you've fallen out of sync, but I'm looking to my right, shifting my weight to the left, and then slowly, slowly coming back. Good job. I'm not sure about you. Again, I've got damage to my hips and muscles missing in one side. You can feel those muscles and joints working on each side. I hope you feel that as much as I do. Okay. Let's return to a movement in Shibashi 1, which is making waves or pushing waves out. But this time we're going to alternate from one side to the other. Okay. Again, if we can, a wider stance. Again, if you sat down, have this sense that the seat supports you and that you grow from the seat. If you're standing, even in prosthetic limbs. See if you, again, you can have this sense of growth coming up from the ground and that it supports you like a tree. And I don't want that to sound strange, but I want you to have that sense that you've got roots in the earth and that you grow from the earth almost. Okay. So I'm just going to have a little turn to my right. And again, I'm not going to tell you how to adjust your feet or limbs. I want you to just kind of organize that for yourself. I'm going to just step back a bit so you can see. So I'm just kind of shuffling my feet so that I'm orientated more towards my right. And then I'm going to pick up my hands, turn the palms forward, and then have a push and a bit of a shift of weight if you can. And then I'm going to bring my hands, and then I'm going to adjust myself slowly, steadily, to orientate myself to the left and push in that direction. So again, I want you to think about, okay, how do I adjust my body weight so that I can facilitate a turn from one side to the other, so that I feel balanced throughout that movement. And we're just using my hands and that pushing movement as a little bit of icing on the cake. I'm actually more interested in how you facilitate that shift of weight and turn from one side to another. And again, even if you are sat down, this is something that you have to do regularly. You might be sat at a desk and you've got things on the left side and things on the right side. And you have to reach, don't you, and grasp things from each respective sides from time to time. And again, you have to pay attention to how you do that. So again, it's a challenging movement when we slow it down and pay attention and think about how we organize ourselves. It's not so much that we're really thinking about our organization, it's just kind of paying attention to our balance and thinking about, am I in the most balanced position at this point in time? If the answer is, I'm not sure, you can try and think about, okay, so what would give me a better position? And again, that might be different for different people. Okay, I'm going to do one more push on this side and come back. It's a movement called rolling waves, but it actually gets us to think about transitions from one side or one task to another. Okay, and that brings me to our penultimate movement. And again, it's based on this ability to organize ourselves in relation to a task. Kate, you've done this before. A few years ago now, actually. It's surprising how much time has passed, but we're going to pick up imaginary coffee cups, and we're in the center of a worktop that encircles us. Okay, so if we were to think of our circular worktop as a clock face, we would have 12 o'clock in front, 6 o'clock behind, all the other respective numbers around us. 3 o'clock on my right, 9 o'clock on my left. We'll miss out 12 and 6, but we've got coffee cups, mugs, glasses, whatever you want to think of, at each respective number, 1 to 5, and then 7 to 11. Okay, so without much instruction, I want you to see if you can take a little step or a little shift of weight, even if you sat down, in the direction of number 1. Reach out with your right hand, because we're on the right side. Pick up our imaginary cup. Pay attention to how you do that. Bring it back and kind of put it down in the center. And then we're going to do the same for 2 o'clock. So the angle changes, doesn't it? So again, how do we just reach and grasp in these respective positions. Okay, 3 o'clock. So some of you might just step to the side and do a little look. Again, if you are in a wheelchair or sat in a seat, that's probably the only options you have. Alternatively, if you're standing up, you may actually turn that foot, turn the hips so that you have a better grasp and look at that respective cup. So again, just take a note. What did you do first time round? Did you just reach and grab, or did you turn your body to do so? As we go to 4 and 5, I know this gets much more difficult for people seated because it involves a bit more rotation. Just take a note of the boundaries of your rotation, because again, that is useful in respect to driving a car, where we need to be able to look over respective shoulders, don't we, when we're driving? So what's your range? So 4 o'clock, again, do you just look and reach, or do you actually make more of a turn with the body and pick up that cup and bring it back from 4 o'clock? Finally, 5 o'clock, okay? Probably the most difficult turn, step, reach, slowly bring it back, like so. That's the right side. Left side. Let's go from 11 on our clock face and do the same that we did. We'll work backwards. So 11 o'clock, but pay attention now in terms of what's this like in comparison to the right side. So I'm reaching with my left hand to 11 o'clock and slowly coming back. Okay, and then 10 o'clock. So we're moving slowly. We could say we're moving in a Tai Chi way. We're paying attention. 9 o'clock. See, immediately for me, that's a much more difficult movement as a consequence of my prosthesis and damage to my right hip. And it gets even more difficult as I now get to 8 o'clock. I'm now having to manage my balance in a much more purposeful way versus the right side. This is me. For you, it could well be different. I would expect it to be different. And then I'm coming back. This is my final one from 7 o'clock. So that's a difficult task for me as I get to 9, 8, and 7 in particular. So you'll have a picture now in your mind's eye of, okay, in certain angles and at certain orientations, the movement is relatively straightforward. And in other orientations and directions, that movement is much more challenging. Again, that gives us information with which we can then begin to think about, okay, how can I make life easier for me? What things could I do? Are there any aids that might help me? Do I just need to be a bit more mindful when moving in that direction, just slowing down a little bit just to pay attention? Do I need to maybe just emphasize that side a bit more so that I get used to coordinating? So there's all these ideas that I'm hoping are percolating in your brains and giving you ideas about what you can do over the next few days in terms of exploring these ideas. Okay, let me bring things to a close. I hope that's been okay. Let me know at the end. I hope it's been an interesting exercise. So let's finish. We'll wrap ourselves in the blanket of the earth, gathering Earth's energy. So we're going to pick up the hands to the side. Palms are out. And then it's as if we wrap ourselves in a blanket. Picture that idea in mind. And then let that blanket fall open. Let's do that again. We'll do it 2 more times for a total of 3. If you wish, you can have this breath in as you wrap yourself. So there's all kinds of associations I'm hoping going on here as we wrap ourselves in that blanket and then letting it go with a breath out perhaps. Let's do it one more time. Maybe with a breath in. And then letting it go. And then very briefly, just bringing the thumbs together, linking them, placing my hands on the lower abdomen. And we'll do maybe 30 seconds, no more. Maybe a big breath in at the beginning. Letting it go. Resting the eyes, even just for a few seconds, and just breathing comfortably. Not thinking about anything in particular. Just sitting, resting, letting everything that we've done kind of settle. And then, when we're ready, parting the hands. And that's our cue to bring our little session to a close. Let me stop the recording. I appreciate we've gone over a little bit, so I hope that's not been a problem too much. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks. See you in 2 weeks, guys. Thank you.